Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fiber Broadband Association's Five for Breakfast. We're now on our 16th episode of 2024. Before I kick off, I'd like to thank Wesco, the platinum sponsor of Five for Breakfast. Last Thursday, the Fiber Broadband Association held its second annual Fiber Day on the Hill, and we had over 350 members of Congress and their staff come through. It was great to hear brief speeches during the day from our honorary co-chairs, Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas, Senator Peter Welch from Vermont, Representative Troy Balderson from Ohio, and Representative Annie Kuster from New Hampshire. It's just a great event, and it's clear that Congress is hearing our message that fiber is critical infrastructure. Late last night, I got back from Little Rock, where we held an amazing regional Fiber Connect workshop. What a great turnout, and our speakers were absolutely amazing. It was great to hear from Doug McLaughlin, the CEO of Diamond States, who discussed how to build scalable middle mile networks. And there were fantastic discussions on public-private partnerships and permitting and middle mile deployment challenges. My favorite sessions were from the team from Ritter Communication, who walked us through their hard learned lessons on deployment. And of course, I love hearing from our good friend, Glenn Howey, the state broadband director of Arkansas. And he provided us an update on where they are within the BEAD approval process of their Volume 2. Just a great day and wonderful event. FBA's next Regional Fiber Connect workshop will be held in beautiful Deer Valley in Park City, Utah on June 4th. Deer Valley is just an incredible place in June, and the event is going to be absolutely fantastic. So you're not going to want to miss that. And then after Deer Valley, we'll be in Des Moines in September. Our first event in Canada will be in Calgary in October, Albuquerque in November, and then of course the big granddaddy of all, Fiber Connect 2024, will be in Nashville, July 28th to 31st. Registration is open for Fiber Connect 24, and it's going great. I'm going to have 5,000 of our closest friends there. That brings us to today's Five for Breakfast session. In recognition of National Lineman's Appreciation Day, which is tomorrow, April 18th. Today's Five for Breakfast is dedicated to the men and women who put their lives on the line to keep the lights on and our broadband in service. Our guests are Todd Butcher, Vice President of Power Distribution for SNL Communications, and Joe Phillips, the Director of Engineering and Design Services for SNN Communications, who will be discussing fiber and electrical, a marriage made in safety. But before I formally introduce today's guest, I'd like to introduce David Norris from our team, who's going to walk us through some housekeeping items.
Thank you very much, Gary, and thank you to our guests as well. Before I go over a few logistics, we'd just like to once again thank our platinum sponsor, Fiber for Breakfast, Wesco. So please keep in mind today that all participants are in listen-only mode. To ask a question, please type it into the question box located within the control panel on the side of your screen. We will be hosting a Q&A session with our panelists at the end of today's session. This presentation is also being recorded and will be available on FBA's website within 24 to 48 hours. You can find the recording in the Events tab under the Fiber for Breakfast drop-down option. At the conclusion of the presentation, you'll be prompted to complete a brief feedback survey. Please take a moment to do so. We appreciate your input. With that, I will pass things back over to Gary to once again introduce us to our panelists and get us started. Gary?
Thanks, David, and good morning. I'm Gary Bolton, the President and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association. Last week on Fiber Breakfast, our guest was our good friend Jamie Lindeman, the Research Manager and Principal Analyst at Omdia, to discuss an analyst perspective on North America's historic broadband boom. And Jamie shared with us that fiber-to-home equipment sales will reach $110 billion globally by 2029, and North America will account for 35% of this spend overall. It used to be that if you wanted to be able to get down the price curve, you had to do something in China, right, to get the volumes. But in 2026, Jamie showed us actually how North America, US, is taking over the volume from China. So it's going to be amazing next several years of fiber deployment, and we're really excited about that. So if you missed it, you can go to the Fiber Broadband's website and watch the replay. And David, can you put up that Kiss of Life photo? So I just wanted, in recognition of the National Lineman's Appreciation Day, which is tomorrow, This Fiber for Breakfast is dedicated to the men and women who put their lives on the line to keep the lights on and broadband in service. And I think this historic picture here just kind of, to me, crystallizes, how dangerous and what these men and women are doing every day in the service of our industry. And they're putting their life on the line, and just safety could not be more important. And that's why I'm really pleased to have Todd Butcher, the Vice President of Power Distribution for S&N Communications, and Joe Phillips, the Director of Engineering and Design Services for S&N Communications, because they're going to be discussing fiber and electrical and marriage made in safety, which we cannot emphasize more than enough. Todd is the Vice President of Power Distribution at S&N Communications, has over 35 years service as a line worker, and has held various management positions throughout his tenure, priding himself on the value of safety instruction. Todd has nurtured relationships within the industry via his personable nature and extremely positive attitude. Butcher comes from great hands as well, serving for the past 4 years as a manager of safety training for Virginia, Maryland, Delaware Association of Electric Cooperatives. Joe is the Director of Engineering and Design Services for S&N Communications. Joe comes with over 25 years of experience in cooperative fiber optic design, construction, and operations. This fiber carrier started in the early 2000s with Blue Ridge Mountain EMC, and then as the Director of Network Access for the North Georgia Network Cooperative. NGN was the nation's first BTOP grant recipient, awarded by then Vice President Biden in December of 2009. So welcome, Todd and Joe. And for our audience, please type in your questions as you go, and we'll work those into the Q&A. And with that, welcome, Todd, Joe, and I'll turn things over to you.
Good morning. Thank you. Can we start with first of all, I'd like to say in appreciation of Lineman Appreciation Day, you couldn't be more spot on as to the coordinated effort between fiber and electric at this point right now in particular, because we're just trying to get it done as quick as we can, but we need to do it as safely as we can, and I think this is just good timing.
Yeah, and the power utility and fiber broadband line workers have more in common than not. Primarily, it is safety. It's the most important common thread of all, along with customer care, because the crews are the face of the company to the customer, and dedication to service while providing quality workmanship is paramount, and they take pride in what they do, and that shows in their product. There's also a common history between power and fiber in rural America. The Spanish flu epidemic of 21 was followed by rural electrification, and our pandemic is being followed by an economic recovery through broadband deployments. And both power and fiber line workers have a common goal of cooperation, because their lives depend on the safety of that cooperation daily by working closely together each other. But also the existing electrical right-of-ways that provide a path for our fiber deployments. Those same fiber deployments builds strengthen the power grid through improved SCADA communications, substation management, and methods of positive control over green power production on the grid.
Actually, you're exactly right. The volume and common resources, they help solidify commercial functions and operations. Along with the monumental task of constructing the infrastructure comes the ongoing responsibility of maintaining and operating the network. And the career opportunity for these line technicians continues to grow in scope and longevity as fiber networks expand.
Yeah. And fiber shares the same challenges as power, exposing linemen to dangers during restoring networks during storms and natural disasters. This type of work requires even higher awareness of safety and risk management through tough working conditions.
100%. Going back to my safety training days with the Virginia, Maryland, Delaware Association of Electric Cooperatives, and across the country, the associations have become a strong model for this collaboration. We refine an already excellent safety and line worker training program with the fiber installer and the technician certification programs that are growing in interest and need, obviously. I can't say enough about our training emphasis on the safety side of it, as far as taking the time and taking the effort to make sure that everybody is on the same page on every job that they get to. And I think we're doing a better job at that. And I think we can always do a better job at it. So high quality training is a common primary goal for both the power utility and the telecom line workers. S&N Communications and the Virginia, Maryland, Delaware Association of Electric Cooperatives have worked closely together to provide the training and collaboration. Joe,
Yeah.
you want to speak on the fiber optic?
Yeah, and with the help of the FBA's Optic Path certification program, we've been able to provide new training opportunities for fiber installers and linemen who work with fiber daily. We're also working with other regional associations to establish the Optic Path program and enhance the lineman training opportunities there. So, and regardless of what they do, construction of new networks, doing daily maintenance and operation, or providing emergency restoration, electrical distribution and fiber line workers share a common goal, and that's bringing a world-class connectivity to all of the citizens of America. And we would like to salute and dedicate to those workers the recognition due them on this Lineman's Appreciation Day upcoming.
I agree 100%.
All right.
We'll take whatever questions we may have or whatever conversation you'd like to bring to the table.
Let's start with S&N. Can you tell us a little bit about S&N and tell us a little about the network and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I'll start off with the S&Ns. Originally was Smith and Newkirk were the gentlemen, the S&N part, that created S&N Communications back in 1977, primarily as a splicing company for copper. And of course, as things that have evolved in evolution, they entered into fiber splicing and also became a premier provider of utility construction, not only telecom, but gas. And now we've got a history of electrical distribution. Todd, talk to that.
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, Joe's exactly right. We jumped into the energy side of it, and it's grown exponentially from there. We offer overhead and underground construction, strategic underground projects, core projects, make ready for fiber, obviously. And, you know, we couldn't be more excited about where we're at as far as the energy division as well.
And also, because of the day and time, make ready and locating, two challenges that there is not one project in this country doesn't face that daily. And because of that, we're expanding our power side for make ready operations, but more importantly, we've expanding our locate utility business, and we're offering up those services out and growing that in multi-state areas as well, out of necessity to help get in front of the locate issues to keep construction going for our customers.
David, can you roll back to one of those pictures of a pole, and maybe Joe and Todd, you can talk a little bit about the power zone and then the communications area, and then what all are you seeing hang on poles, and what is the priority, and can you talk a little bit about safety zones and how we're able to hang all this stuff on these poles without, one, being able to coordinate it all, but two, to keep people safe as well.
Well, I'll start, and you can see from this picture that this is a pretty simple installation here. There's not a whole lot on these poles. You get into the highly populated areas, the city areas, and it's going to be much more complex than this. But as you can see, the more stuff you put on poles, the taller the poles get. The power space and the telecom space can either be a little bit far apart, like you see in this picture, or it can be a lot closer. And that was my point earlier, that regardless of what we're doing, it's just poles and wire, but it's the space that you're working in that needs to be clear as to the danger areas, the minimum approach distances, and things like that for these folks. Regardless of what you think you're doing as a lineman, at some point in your career, you're going to be working with fiber, whether it's storm restoration or new installation. It's part of our future. It's going to be a big part of our future, and this is a good time to talk about it.
Yeah, and this particular installation here is what we call a strand and lash. There's a metal messenger strand that gets placed first, then the fiber optic cable, loose tube cable, will be lashed to it with the lasher with a piece of spiral wire that goes around to hold the fiber against the metal strand. Another construction technique that's very popular, and we help a lot of our customers with, is ADSS, all dielectric self-supporting. And it's a cable that uses dead ends and tangents and allows for placement of that cable on the poles. And since it's all dielectric, it can go up closer into the zone because of its ability to withstand induction of electricity. So there's different techniques there. ADSS a lot of times gets placed up in the power area, but it's also used down in the communication zone as well. And a lot of providers will pick the appropriate one for their network that gets them the most bang for the buck in their construction techniques.
Can you talk a little bit about, right as we're trying to recruit optical, technicians, fiber optic technicians, and so forth? How difficult is it to recruit new linemen and women, and where they come from? What is the profile of people that would be well suited for this kind of profession?
Are you speaking of telecom side or both?
Both, yeah.
Okay, a lot of on the line side, a lot of the pre-apprenticeship programs at the local community colleges, and they're a huge feed for us. They come to us with a better understanding of what we're getting into, not quite so green. They have some certifications that help them along in the beginning. So that's been huge for us from that standpoint. The journeyman linemen are, it's pretty much across the board. Everybody's pretty level playing field there. So so whatever you bring to the table is what they look at. So that side of it is pretty stable. But the new line workers are coming out of the schools for the most part.
Yeah, and we're working.
Is, Joe, I think you were talking about, like in this picture, it's you has a lash machine, but when you use ADSS closer in the power zone, does that limit the availability of skilled workers that can work on that fiber, because you need different qualifications to be on the power side versus the comm side?
Yeah, and again, there is different classifications. If you are working in the zone, then yes, you have to use all the techniques and procedures safety-wise that a standard lineman who is working in the hot areas. However, placement, we have crews that are, I guess, uptrained in the ability to place ADSS in the power space. They're not certified or qualified to be working on the live lines, but they do have the ability to approach into those zones and have the appropriate safety training and procedures and equipment to allow them to place that ADSS closer to the primaries and neutrals.
That's right.
And do you see, from a safety perspective, is aerial or buried? I mean, is there a difference, significant difference in safety, and what do you have to focus on? And I mean, obviously in aerial, you're climbing a pole, so there's the act of climbing a pole is not exactly safe. But what are the threats for buried that you need to worry about?
Yeah.
As Joe brought,
Go ahead,
Joe
Todd.
brought to the attention earlier, the locate side of it is hugely important for the guys on the underground side, and not just for fiber, but for electric installation as well. So as Joe pointed out, having that properly trained locator is huge for us. And overhead, you can see obviously the climbing issue is what it is there, but I don't see a whole lot of difference, one being more safe than the other or more impactful than the other. Both have their challenges.
Yeah, as Todd said, the utilities are primary power is in the air, primary power is in the ground, and so they both command the respect that they demand. Although sometimes in the underground situations, there's other utilities in there. The other one that we're most keenly aware of is gas, and we have to be very careful with that. And we don't see too many gas lines span to span aerial, so that lends its complexities there.
So the Common Ground Alliance, their dirt report, they kind of ranked telecom as the most dangerous industry with most incidents. What can we do and they're working hard to try to mitigate a lot of this issues, and we still see fatalities with linemen. It's a very dangerous occupation. What are we seeing improvements in safety, and what can be done to kind of mitigate damage and injury?
We are seeing a decrease, I believe, but in my opinion only, it starts at the beginning with safety and patience. We have to give these folks enough time to get their job done safely and do it the way they're supposed to do it. I know it's important to have fiber everywhere, to have connectivity everywhere, but nothing's more important than the folks putting up the structures or putting it in the ground or whatever. That's what I would say is most important to me.
Yeah, and as Todd said, the biggest thing at the end of the day is coming back home, and through that, providing safety training, the correct education, the correct tools, the correct equipment, getting everybody to understand recognition is a huge piece of the process to be safe. Yes, there are what you would call true accidents that were unforeseen and potentially unavoidable. But the majority of the incidents that do happen, there is a failure somewhere along the way that can be corrected. The biggest thing we can do is learn from those and then move forward with that training and those points and topics and reduce the number of injuries. And because of the demand, the potential for those injuries are even greater. So we must be vigilant to watch out for those.
So one of the questions that came in, it's from a video production manager at a telephone company, and he's wondering what resources do linemen use for continued education, and is video play a critical role in that, and what should they be putting together for their telco to help their linemen to be safe?
I'll let you speak to that, Joe. There's facilities out there, so we just need to make them available.
Yeah, and again, there's some packaged resources out there. What you can do a lot of times reach out to some of the associations. A lot of times manufacturers are a really good source for some video content, especially around a specific device. you know, one of the manufacturers, Eaton out there, they do a lot of production and have a lot of content, and that's most useful a lot of times. And you can reach out to those manufacturers, and I'm sure they would be more than happy to lend some of that resource to you.
Great. And I know you guys mentioned the optic path, so the fiber broadband, fiber optic training program. Can you talk about a little bit how you're leveraging that to train your workers?
Yeah, I'll start out with the Virginia, Maryland, Delaware Association. We've took the OptiPath program from the FBA, and working with the FBA and the association, S&M, we've come in and we're providing that to cooperatives, members of that association. They've also opened it up to contractors who may work for members of those associations as well. Again, the collaboration between all these entities has resulted in multiple students who have now been certified in the OptiPath program, and we have more in the pipeline coming. S&N's also been working with other regional associations that have large footprints to help them introduce the OptiPath program into their standard training curriculums and add it as an additional offering to get people certified, get the workforce developed, and get more techs out there in the field.
Well, great. Well, Todd, Joe, just really appreciate everything you do to keep our line workers safe and our power and broadband service on. And thanks for sharing your expertise and insights with our audience. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. And we look forward to getting back together next Wednesday for Fiber Breakfast.